I'm excited to be back in the Red Rock Poker Room tonight. After traveling the last few weeks, I haven't played any poker in Las Vegas. Tonight we got 1-2 no limit going. That's all they got, so that's what I'm going to play. Let's play good poker. Let me know in the comments below if you think I play bad, good, if I should improve. What do you think I should do? Here's all the hands from tonight's session. We walk right into a shorthanded game. There's only 5 players and one of them's about to leave as well. We're on the button here. We see ace-4 offsuit, which is a strong hand in shorthanded Texas Hold'em. It gets around to me. I make a raise for 10 bucks. The small blind calls. Under the gun also calls. We're going 3 ways to a flop. We see a dream flop. It comes ace-4 deuce rainbow. We flop 2 pair, which is an absolute monster in 4-handed. I bet 20 bucks. The small blind folds. And the other guy comes along. We're going heads up to a turn. It's the 5 of hearts. He checks. I check. We're headed to a river. The river comes the king of clubs. I think I'm definitely in the lead here. I probably should have continued on the turn, but I didn't. So on the river, he checks. I bet 35, but it doesn't even matter because he pretty much was folding right away. So we take that pot. I'm looking at 10-6 of diamonds, and I raise it to 15. I'm on the button, the best position. The small blind calls, and the guy who straddled also calls. We're going 3 ways. The flop comes out. We're looking at 10-8-3 with 2 clubs. We flop top pair, which is very strong in a shorthanded game. It goes check, check. I bet for 25 into about 45 in the pot. Small blind folds. Straddle comes along. The turn card is the 8 of spades, making a pair of 8s on the board, but we still have top pair. The river is the 3 of diamonds. He checks again. I bet small. I bet only 10 for value. I show my 10 with a 6, and it just so happens he also had a 10 with the 4. And because the river card also paired the board, I end up taking the pot with my 6 kicker. 10s and 8s with the 6 kicker. He had a 4. We win that hand. That was a blessing. Now I'm in the big blind with 5-7 offsuit. Not a hand I would typically play, but I'm already priced in being the big blind. We go 3 ways to a flop. The flop comes out 4-5-7 with 2 clubs. We flop top 2 pair. It goes check. I bet 10 into 6 bucks. The guy behind me calls. The other guy folds. We're going heads up to the turn. The turn card is the deuce of hearts. I'm going to continue betting. I have top 2 pair, very, very strong in a 4-handed game. I bet for 25, and my opponent pushes all of his chips in the middle. It's 57 more to call. I don't think I can fold here, but I do want to run through the possible hands that my opponent could have. He could have a potential 6-7 type hand, 5-6, hunting for a straight with a pair. But given the fact I have top 2 pair on this board, I got to make the call. I put the call in there. The river comes the 3 of hearts. He flips over jack-7 for top pair. I show my 2 pair, and I win the hand. It's pretty late at night here, so there's only 3 games, and my game ended up breaking, so now there's 2 games. So I'm in a different seat now for the rest of the time because I ended up switching tables. Now we're at a full game. Before we were shorthanded. I was the best player at the table by far. I won like 150 bucks. Now we have to acclimate ourselves to the new game and see what it's like. Same stakes, 1-2 no limit. Let's see the hands. Now we're in a new game. This is a full game. There's only 2 tables left in the casino tonight. There's a limper. It gets raised up to 7 with a few callers, and I'm on the button, the best position with pocket 10s. I decided to raise it up to 25 because I'm not trying to play this hand with a ton of players. I'd rather dwindle it down to heads up or maybe 3-handed. It gets folded around to the initial raiser of 7. He calls, and one other player comes along. We're going 3 ways to the flop. We're looking at Jack King 4 with 2 diamonds. Not a great flop for me. There's 2 overcards there. There's a flush draw. There's a straight draw possibility. The turn card comes out the 4 of spades. I don't know if I'm supposed to bet here on the turn, the fact that they checked on the flop and the turn, but I decided to check with my hand. The river card came out, the king of clubs, and I'm going to take down this pot with my showdown value of pocket tens. Let me know if you think I should have bet on the flop or the turn, because I'm not sure what I should have done in this spot, but we still win the pot anyway. This is a straddled pot, which means it's 1-2, and then the next person puts 5 in and they're last to act. We got pocket nines. Sneaky nice hand in this game. It gets raised to 17 bucks in front of me. I make the call for 17. And this hand gets a little bit interesting because the button has a $100 bill out, and the dealer didn't know if he had the money in before or not, but I saw him put the money in before. So his 100's actually in play. The dealer's handing him chips. He makes the call. Big blind makes the call. There's another guy making the call. We're going 5 ways to a flop. The flop comes out and it's deuce 4-5 rainbow, which you would think is a good flop for my hand. But the first position to act has only 34 behind, and he puts all of his chips in the middle. He gets one caller in front of me by the initial raiser, and I'm thinking if someone goes all in and someone calls, it's going to be tough for my hand to be ahead at this point. Because there was a lot of people in the hand pre-flop for 5 ways, I don't think pocket nines is the best hand at this point, so I decided to fold my hand. The turn comes the ace of clubs, the river comes the 4 of clubs, and the guy who went all in flips over pocket sixes, and somehow the guy who called doesn't win this hand. I don't know what he possibly called with. He didn't have an ace. He didn't have anything that connected with that board, but I ended up folding the winner here, and that was a bad play by me. Now we have ace deuce of diamonds. We see a few limpers in front of us, and I decide to build the pot by raising it to 15. If I see any type of diamonds, I want to have money in there. It goes around to the big blind who calls. The first limper calls, the second limper also calls. We're going 4 ways to a flop, and we have the position here, meaning we get to act last. The board comes out, ace 5 king rainbow. We flop top pair. It goes check, check, check. Gets around to me. I also decide to check, given my hand is strong, but not that strong. The turn is the 7 of spades. That's a good card for me. It gets checked around, and I bet for 25 on the turn. The next 2 players fold, and I get 1 player to come along to the river. The river is the ace of hearts. My opponent checks, and I decide to make a big bet here on the river. Pretty much go full pot to kind of make it seem like a bluff. I checked on the flop, bet turn, bet river. Sometimes when you do that, you got to think your opponent's bluffing. So I have trip aces on the river. I bet for 65, and he ends up folding pretty quickly. We take down the pot, not a big one, but every pot in this game counts. Now we have ace king offsuit, ace of hearts, king of clubs. I decide to raise it to 15, which is a pretty large raise in 1-2 no limit, especially at the Red Rock. A bunch of people start folding behind me. The small blind comes along for 15, and we're going heads up to the flop. The flop comes out, king deuce 5. We flop top pair, top kicker, and we also flop a backdoor hard draw with the ace of hearts. He checks. I bet 20 bucks on the flop, and he quickly calls. And he's only got about 65 bucks behind at this point. He started the hand with about 100. The turn comes the 9 of hearts. Now we have the nut flush draw, top pair, top kicker. He checks. I decide to put him all in for about 65 bucks. He thinks for a little, starts shuffling his chips, fakes like he's going to put them in. But my opponent ends up folding, and we take down the pot. We've been playing great poker this whole session. Now we have ace 9 of spades in the small blind. There's a few limpers in front of me. It gets to me, and I want to build this pot a little bit, so I decide to make it 12 bucks to go. The big blind calls, and 3 other players also call. We're going 5 ways to the flop. There's 60 bucks in the middle. The flop comes 9-4 deuce with 3 diamonds. I want to bet here to try to get any draws if they have 1 diamond to fold. So I lead for 25, flopping top pair, top kicker. A few players fold, and it gets around to the guy who I played my last hand with, and he goes all in for about 115 bucks. Now, a lot of times when players say this, it can be scary because they're trying to use reverse psychology, but this player had been putting chips in the pot all night with pretty bad hands. The turn is the 8 of spades. He flips over 10-8 for a flop flush. I'm drawing dead at this point. The king of clubs is the river. I say good hand, muck my cards, and I pay the man his money. That was a pretty solid session until the end there. That was a bad last hand, but it was tough to get away from when you have top pair. And the guy who I was playing against, he's been dumping chips the whole night since I got to the new game. So I had to call that hand pretty much. I put him on only one diamond, and of course he has the flush against me when he's been putting it in with like middle pair. But it is what it is. We won 105 in that session, which is a third of a buy-in in the 1-2 game. Honestly, not bad. We played a lot of hands, won most of them, but that big pot at the end, we took a loss. But honestly, I'll take that win. They didn't have any 2-5, but anytime you win in poker, it's always a good thing.